The Green Bay Packers suffer a blow in their win over the Cincinnati Bengals that we will talk about in this video. But first, now that we have this weekend's games wrapped up with Chicago's win over the Commanders last night, let's take a look at the division in the NFC North where the Packers stack up. As it sits right now, the Packers are on top of the division with a 3-1-1 record with that tie over the Dallas Cowboys. Just behind them at a 4-2 record. They lose to the Kansas City Chiefs. If you didn't watch that game, YouTube it, check out the scuffle between Brian Branch and Patrick Mahomes after the game. Patrick Mahomes goes up to shake Brian Branch's hand. He refuses to do so, which then just reaffirms some of the character flaws on this Detroit Lions team that's been there for years. And it just reaffirms why I dislike this team so much. Some of the fans, the players, I just hate the Detroit Lions. That being said, you got the Minnesota Vikings 3-2, Chicago Bears 3-2. This is a strong division. This is a very good division. It was the best division in football a year ago. I still think it's the best division in football. This is a division in which if you're the opposing team, you have to take whoever you're playing serious. Even the Chicago Bears under Ben Johnson, which seems to be getting their stuff together there, again, with that win over the Commanders last night. That being said, you're looking ahead to this upcoming weekend's games. You got the Packers on top facing last place Arizona Cardinals in the NFC West at 2-4. Again, this is a game in which you can't look past. You can't look past the Cardinals. You got to take each game in stride. I think the Packers have learned their lesson there, but it seems very good odds that the Packers will come up with a win in that game. That being said, you got the Lions facing first place Tampa Bay Buccaneers at 5-1. And this is a Tampa Bay Buccaneers that is so pesky, coming into each season. This is a team in which, some people just don't take serious. And Baker Mayfield certainly has, become a premier quarterback in the league, which sounds crazy to say out loud, but it just is factual. Emeka Egbuka seems to be a favorite target there for Baker Mayfield, and they don't even have Mike Evans back yet. So this is a game in which the Lions could easily come up with a loss, putting them at 4-3. And then you got the Chicago Bears at 3-2 facing last place New Orleans Saints at 1-5. Wouldn't that be something if this is a world in which you have the Chicago Bears leapfrogging the Detroit Lions in the division? Again, it's a long season, but it would just bring me joy to see that happen. I hate the Bears, but man, I really dislike the Detroit Lions. That being said, let's get to the blow of news that the Packers receive, and that is with Lucas Van Ness. Okay, so we all know that he suffered a foot injury. He didn't play the second half of this week's game. But here's what Matt LaFleur had to say yesterday. He said, "I definitely think we avoided something serious," which is great news, but how long he'll be out remains to be seen. And that's the bad news, okay? Because, this is a very good defense for Jeff Hafley there, especially when you're talking about just our edge rushers. Okay, so this is a team in which they don't have to necessarily send blitzes all the time to put pressure on the opposing quarterbacks, because you got Micah Parsons, you got Lucas Van Ness, you've got Rashawn Gary, and then other guys like Devontae Wyatt and all that stuff. So we've already got an injury on our defensive front to Devontae Wyatt, and you would hate to see a world in which you've got Lucas Van Ness out there hurt, gone for quite a while. I've seen different timetables of his return. I don't know exactly what the foot injury is, but the MRI came back. It's not a serious foot injury, but which makes me think that maybe this is a high ankle sprain, which if that's the case, and you're an edge rusher in the league, it's going to take a good 3, 4, maybe 5 weeks to come back from that, which wouldn't be good news for the Packers. But thankfully they're deep at edge, right? So that being said, LaFleur went on to say, he's been playing pretty well. He's been impactful. He's been playing physical. And it's definitely a loss. Okay. So he has highest with quarterback hits at 6. Okay. So then on top of that, you've got Zach Tom. So right tackle, Zach Tom, left guard, Aaron Banks returned to the lineup. And then you see right here, Zach Tom said this after the game. It didn't feel great. And then when asked to put it on a pain scale of 1 to 10, he declined to answer that, and he said, "I ain't answering that, no way," which is not good news for Packer fans out there because, before the season began, you're looking at, when we are talking about tackles, top 32 ahead of 2025 season beginning. Where did Zach Tom fall on that list? Number 9. He's number 9 on that list as far as tackles in the NFL, and he just hasn't been healthy ever since that. Again, you're talking about the character flaws of the Detroit Lions. There was a cheap shot taken at Jordan Love, which then throws him into Zach Tom, and then he comes up with the oblique injury, and he hasn't really played since week 1. He's been very spotty in and out since then. Again, not great news. Okay, so but Lucas Van Ness, this is a blow to our defense if you can't, filter him in there and give guys like Gary, guys like Micah Parsons a rest, or even have packages where all three of them are in there. That's certainly going to impact the Packers defensively going forward. But let's take a look. So offensively and defensively after this week's games, this is according to PFF. You had the top performers offensively were Matthew Golden at 90.4, which you can't say enough about Golden, and Romeo Dobbs, who was also on that top 5 list for the Packers at 72.1 PFF score. Both those guys are improving themselves to be very reliable targets for Jordan Love, who was also on that list, number 4 at 73 with a PFF score. So offensively, this is a very potent offense, and this is a very deep wide receiving core. But Matthew Golden is certainly pleading his case that he is that guy in Green Bay. He's the number 1 guy there. But Romeo Dobbs is just so steady. You can always rely on that dude. He comes back to balls that we saw even in the Bengals game. He was coming back to Jordan Love, helping him out there. Zach Tom, 75.5, also on that list. And then you talk about the injury, the setback there, all of that stuff with his oblique. Not great news for Packer fans. And then Josh Jacobs also on that list, which then is a contributor to the passing game opening up, Zach Tom being back. All of that stuff opens up the run game for Josh Jacobs. And Josh Jacobs, can't say enough about that dude. He's just so good. And when he is there, this is one of the better offenses in football, in my opinion. And then defensively, you've got Warren Brinson making his appearance. Love that dude. 84.8 PFF score. Micah Parsons, of course, is going to be on that list. Evan Williams at a 76.4. And you're looking at the safety duo there. We haven't, it's been quiet, relatively quiet for our safety duo at the moment, but I promise you're going to hear, more out of Xavier McKinney, Evan Williams together. Edrin Cooper, 73.6. Cooper, he's been relatively quiet too, but that dude hits. And same thing with Javon Bullard. That dude hits. Both those guys, they pack a punch. Colby Wooden also on that list, which was encouraging to see, especially with Wyatt being out, that somebody was stepping up along with Brinson. So great news for Packer fans out there that Lucas Van Ness is not going to be, out crazy long, but not great news in the fact that, it could potentially be 3, 4, 5 weeks. But that being said, leave your comments in as always. Go Pack Go.